Hello, hello, hello. Okay, let's see. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Hello, everyone. Hello, Game Dev Decal. My name is Sebastian Gerardo. I am a third-year data science student. I am working with primarily art this semester, so if you have art questions, you're always free to ping me on Discord and I will likely get back to you. If you still have coding questions, you could still ping me, of course. I'm one of your facilitators, so don't be afraid to ping me and ask me for anything. Alright, so today's lecture is about UI, but first let's start off with logistics. Alright, so the question was ketchup on fries or off to the side? I'm personally offended because who likes ketchup? I'm sorry, I don't, but what's up like with you guys? But if I were to have ketchup, of course it'd have to be off to the side. Or you could be like these people and evenly distribute it, or it's practical, fries turn soggy. So they're just hating on the on fries, right? So that's the responses of all 12 of you. Make sure to do your responses. There's a reading. We hope you read it. It's an interesting reading. I read it last semester on how to pitch your project to a development company. That's where it originally came from. And you guys will be doing that too for this semester as well. Announcements. The labs. There are 2 labs due today. That's for programmers, it's the colliders. And for artists, it is the tile set lab. I hope you did them. Make sure to get them checked off today. Come in during office hours if you need help, or just always ping us in the help channel. We're always there for you guys. Also, Decal Game Night. Decal Game Night was a great success this week. I'm so happy about that. We were able to get a 10-person Among Us game going, which was awesome. Unfortunately for Kevin, he did get voted off a few times for no good reason, or a good reason. There was also the league. Jesus. 5 of us, not me, but 5 people did play League. They seemed like they enjoyed it. They had a full 5 queue for like 2 or 3 games. It was ridiculous. Alright. That is on Saturday nights from like 8 to 10, or you could just always look at the pings on Discord because we will be pinging our game night. So you should come. Participation incentives. Okay, so we want to get participation up for the class. Usually in person, it's a lot easier to do that, but online, it's a lot more difficult. So if at least 80% of you guys talk, answer questions, engage in big group discussions for the whole class, Kat, Richie, and I will learn the Chicky dance, or maybe Celine, Kat, Kevin, me, Aaron will wear cosplay. Aaron will also do a dance in cosplay, so participate. Also, Celine and Kat are willing to dye their hairs for the class, so that would be interesting too. And then Kat, we're saying stream a game of your choice, not her choice. Alright, so let's get started. User interface. So what is UI? Well, here's an outline because I forgot about that. So we're going to go over what is it? The 4 types of UI, some general advice for UI, and then we're going to dive into UX, which is user experience, how to influence it through UI, and then designing UI, like some tips for designing a good user experience and UI. So what is UI? This is UI. Nunu running down mid is UI. The left, the right, the map, all the abilities on the bottom, all the information in the top right, all of that is UI. This is UI? Yes. This is also UI. This is from One Step from Eden. All the little red numbers, the health, the broken tile set, the whole tile set, all of this is UI as well. Even this, yes, this is UI too. This is from Journey. Great game, you should play it. But even though it looks like there's not what you would consider like a traditional UI, there's tons of information being given to you here. More specifically, actually, I don't want to spoil it yet. We'll go over it later again. So if all of that was UI, then what is UI? So let's formally define it as we have to. So UI is literally user interface. It's a space where the game and the user interacts. It's in every game. You really can't have a game without UI. What else? Yeah. Importantly, it informs the user and guides the experience of the game. So here's a basic chart for UI. Don't get caught up in specifics. We just want to expose you to this. Let's see. UI could exist in the game space or the game story, and depending on if it's both or not, it could be considered non-diegetic, diegetic, spatial, or meta. If you don't know what any of this means, don't worry about it. But we'll just go into the examples then. So first off, non-diegetic, components that are not in the story or space of the game. It exists only to the player. Not only to the player, only for the player. If I were to describe this in one word, it would be artificial. So look at the health for Mario, or not health, the lives Mario has. 4. Does Mario know that? No. How many stars you have? Yes, that too. Things like the high score in Galaga, that's non-diegetic. How many lives left? Non-diegetic. Here's more examples. Of course, there's always life meters, level maps, like in Call of Duty on the right example, or the health percentage of everyone in Super Smash Bros. At the bottom. Let's see. There is also diegetic. So these are components that exist inside the story and space of the game. Characters in the game are aware of this, and if I were to describe it in one word, it'd feel natural. So right here is GoldenEye 007, and part of the game is interacting with your watch to look at your menu, your weapon, which is being shown here. It usually is futuristic overlays or something like not Payday 2, in Team Fortress 2, where the spy, you could see how much time he has left to be invisible on his watch. On the right, we got Dead Space. You could tell your health along his back or his status on the right. There's Halo. You know Master Chief got that tech inside his helmet, right? So it's got what guns he has, how many grenades, what direction he's looking, his like scanner on the bottom left. And then there is also spatial. It is not in the game story, but it is in the game space. It's usually visual aids to help the player. Describing it in one word, helpful. So think of things like usernames above players' heads, like here with space, Elazar, stuff like that. Yes, UI exists exclusively in the game space to guide the player, which is what I just said. But other examples could be in Breath of the Wild, where there's a little arrow over places you have to go. Also in Resident Evil 2, scary game, there's little arrows everywhere that tells you where to go, what you could interact with, and stuff like that. There is also meta, which exists in the game story but not in the game space. It indicates to the player that something is going on. It's usually damage. You could think of it as immersion. The classic example I always think of is in Call of Duty when you get shot, you get the red outline around your screen. That's usually it. But here the example is Team Fortress 2 when you're a medic and then you have your Uber charge, you get a blue outline around your screen. That's pretty good. Other examples would be, again, Breath of the Wild. Love that game. When lightning strikes the game, like the screen shakes. There's like a white flash. The controller vibrates. All that is considered meta. And then this famous screenshot of CSGO. Flashbangs in games are meta UI because it just whites out the screen. Alright, so some general tips. keep your UI meaningful and simple. There's nothing wrong with complex UI. But if the player cannot understand it, how could they stay immersed in the game? What we like to think here is, what is it? Like a low skill floor and a high skill ceiling. So it's easy to get into, but hard to master. And to me, Undertale does this amazingly. Like, what more information do you need in your UI? You could fight, you could act, look at your items, you could like run away or have mercy. You got your HP there. You know what the enemy's saying. Muff it. Like, what else do you need? So usually we'd ask during class, what does this show? This is from Gunfire Reborn, a cool game in beta that is like a mix of Borderlands and dungeon crawler roguelike. So in this UI, you got the map in the top left, you got your money and XP in the top right, you got your guns in the bottom right with how much ammo you have. You got your shift, which is a dash, Q, E, like your health on the bottom left and shield, the usual stuff, but that's always good. But don't forget, UI is also considered the stuff in the center of the screen, like how there's a crossbow band that we're looking at, or the direction we have to go is that yellow upside down G thing. Another tip, don't overwhelm the user. This goes back to here. Keep it meaningful and simple. What is going on in this? Okay, this is Universalis. Oh wait, Europia Universalis 4. It's like a strategy game. I don't know what's going on here. It looks super complicated. It doesn't seem easy to get into. That's what I've noticed about more strategy MMORPG games, that because there's just so much going on the screen that like it's hard to learn it. So if you can, avoid overwhelming users with your UI. But all of this is not necessarily like set in stone per se. It's not strictly defined. Like, look at Baba Is You. You're interacting with everything, but like you're changing how the game flows based on the sentences. Like, the rock is pushed, Baba Is You, and then you turn into the rock. And then there's games like Dance Dance Revolution where it's like you're interacting with the UI, but that's like the only thing you interact with. Is that the gameplay? Is that the UI? Like the red, the greens. The greens are 1/4 notes, I believe. No, 1/3 notes. Yeah. So right now we would have a breakout room where you would discuss a UI you like or absolutely despise. That is also, it's not on your checklist, but you should still think about UIs you like and dislike. So UI extends to UX. The user experience is dictated by UI. If you don't have a good UI, why would people keep on playing your games? My personal favorite UIs ever, or right now at least, is Journey and Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild's UI is extremely simple. It's got your health in the top left. It keeps, like, I look at that and I'm like, oh, it immediately makes sense to me. It's got your, in the bottom right, the map, the weather, the time. All that is like super simple and transparent. So you're not really losing too much out on it. It keeps you pretty immersed in the game, and it really immersed me into the universe of Breath of the Wild. And then there's Journey. I said I'd come back to this, so here I am. Actually, the cape on the main character is how high and how long he could fly. So that's like super meta. There's minimal UI in this game. And then behind the character in the screenshot, you could see the little like a hologram. That's also UI. It's gonna take you to another level that you've completed previously, so that's pretty cool. So let's dive more into user experience. In general, user experience is driven by gameplay, graphics, UI of course, and audio. It could be thought of as the vibe of the game. That's how I think of it, at least. It's what makes Journey on the right so beautiful. Like, it's just an adventure. It's a journey. Or on the left, it could make a game terrifying. Like, I've been so scared of Resident Evil. Like, it's oh, don't even get me started. It's like so scary to me because of how minimal the UI is, how like rough it is, the darker colors, the UI is primarily gray, black, nothing too flashy, so it's always kind of like spooky. So let's get into tips for making good UI and having a positive user experience. So first thing, have the type of experience you want in mind. You really need to have the idea of what you want your game to be like. Do you want it to be spooky? Do you want it to be adventurous? Do you want it to be competitive? Do you want it to be where it's like Doki Doki Literature Club, where it seems all cutesy and everything, but it uses that as a juxtaposition to the horror aspect in the second half of the game? Of course. They thought of this before even like implementing everything. So always have that in mind. It should be quick to interact with. People have short attention spans, so you want to engage the users quickly. Some people are like Dory. They forget every 5 seconds how to interact with everything. That's why Minecraft now has the, oh my gosh, I forgot what it's called, but when you craft, it has the whole menu on how to craft everything. People aren't going to remember that. And here, the example is Payday 2. All 4 of those symbols are 4 different ways to open up that safe. It's telling you how to use the drill. It's even highlighting it so you know you're aiming at the right place. Like, it's super quick. You want your UI to be like that. Keep it super simple. KISS. Okay, keep it super simple. Consider your UI. Is it necessary? You do not want to overwhelm the user. That's like a no-no. Some of us are smooth brains. Look at the UI for Mario Kart. It's so simple. You got the map, you got where everyone is, you got your coins. When you pick up an item, you tells you exactly what it is. You know what place you're in. Like, it's super simple. There's no learning curve. It's like iconic at this point how well this UI is designed. Teach through gameplay. You don't want to learn by reading a manual. That's horrible. You think people who play video games want to read? No, that's why they're playing video games. So blend teaching your UI with your gameplay. Have a tutorial if needed. Here, there's a tutorial in Valorant which teaches you the basics of the game. How to move, how to aim, stuff like that. Using your abilities, like navigation of the menu, all that. Teach through gameplay. Have a theme. This is very, very important. Make sure your UI matches the overall theme of the game and stick to a color palette. Here we have Stardew Valley. You see how there's a lot of like greens, natural colors, like something home, like it's very natural. It's like it gives you a warm feeling looking at this, at least to me. But the whole UI matches with the gameplay. It's all browns, yellows. It's aesthetic to me. Guide the user's eyes. Yes. You have to guide the user. Use concepts to guide the player, like outlines of objects, always useful, objectives, other players. Also with text, very important. Bold, medium, and small. If it isn't important, keep the text smaller. That's why I actually enjoy League of Legends UI. You could see that everything that's important is like red to the player. But like less important stuff is, if you're looking at the screenshot on the top left, like, do you really need to know how much armor the tower has? No, you don't. Do you really need to know what Liandry's is? How many Liandry stacks do you have? No, you really don't. So remember, if it's not that important, keep the text smaller, because if the text is big and brash, if it's bold and brash, users are probably going to look at it. This one should be simple enough to understand. Have simple controls. It should make sense. This is on the left. It's the first level of Baba Is You. You got your keyboard with your keys. and it tells you that's how you move. That's it. That's all you need to know. And then on the right, you got Fallout Quick Help. I don't know what is going on here. This looks worse than like a, you know, on infomercials where it's got like the wall of text at the end. This is what this reminds me of. Like, I don't, what, 1 to use sneak, 2 to use lockpick, that's very complicated, and the way they presented it isn't good. It's quite ugly to look at. Like, I don't want to read this. And another thing, you want to leverage familiarity with the player. People make assumptions, like health hearts are red, like in The Legend of Zelda, bottom left. Kind of iconic now. WASD for PC games, like, that's the standard, that's the norm. Escape is the options menu. You move right on 2D platformers. These are all assumptions that you make when you jump into a game. You don't even have to look at your settings to think WASD is to move. Very important, very, very important. Consistency is key. The art style should be consistent with your game. Same font, color palette, theme. Like, even though you may not like the game, I think Fall Guys has a great UI. Uses the same blues, the same pinks, the same yellows across nearly everything here. The important stuff, or stuff that you want to look at quickly, the 13, what level you are, the highlight of, like, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but I'm pointing at the pink play button. That's what tab you are in. Like, stuff like that. It's super simple. Like, these colors match each other, and it matches the gameplay. It's very consistent. Okay, so this is more in the development cycle, but you have to have user feedback. That is probably the most important part of designing a good UI and user experience. So ask what the users like, what they don't. Do they even understand your UI? And make sure you don't want to be biased. Make sure to not be biased about the feedback you receive, because even though you may have an intended audience, you still want to have feedback and not brush it away, because all the feedback is valuable from everyone, and that will help you improve your overall game. There's a little infographic I put on the bottom left where I'm going to apply this to games, but you choose your UI, you perform it, like by performing it, you test it out, you put it in the game, then you send it to the users, you wait for their reaction, you get their reaction, and then depending on that, you adjust your UI further. It's a process, it's difficult. You may really like your UI at the beginning, but if someone doesn't understand it, you should tweak it. You should be like Pikachu. You're gonna fall down. It's rough. It's really a process. And on the left, the Sandshrew, he's like the pro at making games. Pikachu is like you guys, not that experienced, I'm assuming. But that's how it should be. It is what made Minecraft Alpha probably the biggest game in the world. How it used to look like this, no tutorial, nothing for the player. You get dropped in there. What are you supposed to do? It's almost as bad as going off to college and not knowing what to do. But it starts off like this to something relatively recent with the Xbox release, where it's got your crafting, your inventory, a little tutorial world. As you can see in the top right, it's telling you how to survive. Like, it's night and day between these two, and it's changed for the better. And this cycle has been going on for like 10 years. So if one of the most successful games ever uses this cycle, you should consider using it too. So overview, what we've learned today. UI's user interface, and it is in every game. UI can be categorized, but it does not have to be restricted to those categories. UX, which is user experience, is influenced by UI and can make or break a game. And we went over to how to make good UI. If you're wondering how to implement UI, there is a lab for that on the website, and I believe you guys are doing that later. But don't quote me on that. Here's a quick little thing on UI. Even though it's not specifically for games, it's a puzzle game. I think of it as a puzzle game of like user interfaces for like apps and stuff, to where you could see where what's good UI versus what's bad UI. Project 2, there's going to be a 1 week game jam starting, I believe, this Thursday, where teams of 2 to 3 will have 1 week to make a game from scratch. So preferably you'll be in a group that's not all programmers or all artists. You want to try and mix it up. You want to tag people on the Decal Discord, talk to them, go to game night, or just join the lobby, or go to like, hey, does anyone want to play League or Among Us or something? Just try and get to know your fellow classmates. You'll learn about, the point of this project is to learn about team dynamics, scope, and building a finished game on your own. I do not have a link to the team application form. That will be in the description below. There's some labs today. Programmers. Oh, it is today. You got the UI lab. That makes sense. An artist, you have UI asset creation. So this should be good. The attendance for this lecture is tinycc/soupstore. You should fill that out. And that looks like that's all there is today. So thank you for watching this lecture. Hope you enjoyed it. And bye.